What's going on, everybody? So in this video we're going to just summarize it up. You probably clicked on this because you really want to know what's going on, and I'm about to start dropping some serious hits. So I'm just going to bring it to you straight without trying to get into too much detail on this one, but I'm going to basically just break down exactly what is happening, why it's happening, where we're going. So anything we talk about, let's say from right now, this is point A, and we're trying to get to point C. Everything else in between is point B. So point A, we got the war in Iran. We got the Maduro, things escalating around the world, economical instability, political instability, the E-files, aliens, blah 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 blah. Right? You look at all this stuff and you go, for the majority of people, how do I make sense of all this stuff? This is exactly what they do time and time again. It's the floods of information that leave you just lost in the sauce so that you don't have an idea how to perceive which way is forward or backward or what really makes sense. And that's why I'm going to simplify for you right now. Everything that is happening and has happened is all to perpetuate us to 2030. So that is like the most important thing that you need to know. If you don't know what 2030 is and that whole agenda, we're going to cover it slightly in this video, but not entirely. We're not going to get into it because this video is going to be massive. But that's what I want you to know, is everything that has happened, such as like the start of 2026 to where we are now in 2026, only a few months in, and all this stuff has happened. All this is perpetuating to 2030, and that is the point B in between, is everything that is going to happen from now to next week to next month, or new intel, new data. It doesn't really matter, because no matter what we're doing, we're on the rails traveling to point C, and it's 2030. And when we talk about 2030, we're going to talk about it vaguely. So 2030 is the whole new system that's coming. This is the system that is going to really test our way of life. It's going to change our way of life. That's why what needs to happen is controlled demolition. So in 2030, their plan is to roll in digital finance. It's no longer going to be, paper money and crypto and all this. They want the paper money gone. It's all about control. To rewind, and we look at Iran is one of the very few countries left that doesn't have a Rothschild banking system. When it's time to get to closer into 2030, when they are going to propose this, however that may be, they cannot have major civilizations out there still operating on the old way, because that would open up a response from people to see the choices, where if everybody is most likely on board or within the parameters of control to move forward, then there's less defiance. So in order for this new system to take place, the old system has to die. And it doesn't just have to do with finance. It also has to do with your own perception of your reality. Some of the things mentioned, there's 17 subsections that have been specified for the 2030 agenda and what they want to do. There are other ones that are entangled in between that need to happen as well. But let's just say one of the things is cleaner drinking water, right? Which is one of the things. Cleaner drinking water, as to, if you ask me now, how would I perceive when somebody would say, we need cleaner drinking water? Obviously, we know that there's things in the food, in the water, things in the air. Sure, could we have cleaner drinking water? Absolutely. But if you ask me right now, how do I perceive this? I would say that that is completely irrelevant because we got wars, we got economical instability, we can't afford houses, people are struggling, people are living on their last thread out here. That is more important in my opinion than cleaner drinking water, because the water is still pretty clear coming out and I can buy and have other choices, right? So obviously it is something that I would like to have, is cleaner drinking water for sure. But when you promote that to me or you give that to the people aren't going to perceive that as important right now. So when I read the things from the bill, and I encourage you to go look into these things, when you read them, and we're going to cover that on another video, but when you read these things, know that they're talking from a lack thereof. So now if we change perception, and I was to say, you haven't drank anything in 2 weeks, and I said, hey, wouldn't it be great to have some water? You would say, hell yeah. So now your perception has changed because you're coming from a place of lack thereof. So when I read the things on the bill, I know that electricity, water, institutions, blah, 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 they're not just going to decide all of a sudden to have a change of heart and they care. It's because the system, while we're in that point B, like I said, we're at point A, we're moving through point B to get to C. That point B period has to be a controlled demolition. And it has to be controlled in a way that you don't lose grasp and burn your entire civilization to the ground to where you're rolling over the ashes, but it is going to go through some serious hardships. So picture, we're all in a plane. We have to fly this plane into the ground almost, and at the last moment, we have to pull up, and that is what they're planning to do. And at that last moment, that pull up is them proposing you the bill, saying, hey, do you want to eat? Do you want to drink? Do you need shelter? Do you need medicine? Do you need whatever the lack thereof is? We can provide that for you if you roll into the new system. And the digital ID and the Palantir data centers and the AI, most of these things are already done. So in the point B series that we're living right now, the final tweaks and touches are being put on. Meanwhile, you have these battles going on. Is the war in Iran going to be world war? It could be a possibility, but I believe that it's based off of how we do the dance of the problem, reaction, solution. When they give us a problem or we experience a problem, it's how we move. That reaction gives them ways to react, and then they devise the solutions and they drive it to where we're going anyway. Like I said, to point C, we're going. So that's how things have been done for a while. So from the year 2000 to 2020, same thing, A, B, C. We're getting to C, get us to 2020. Now from 2020, get us to 2030. That's how we've been doing things. And when you look at that time span, there's so much stuff that's happening. And this is what I do. I study these things. This isn't my job, but I make it like a part-time job, almost like a full-time job, to really understand what are the moves. And this is the move. It doesn't really matter what is going to happen. Obviously, it matters. Lives matter. People suffering matters. Victims in the e-files matter. All this stuff matters. But I know that everything that is in perpetuation is pushing us towards the direction of 2030. That is where we're going. And it's once you walk through, this can't be another 2020 vaccination situation. Once you sign off on this, whether you do it by choice or by force, there will be no coming back. And my greatest hunch of all is that the world we're living in now, our politicians, presidents, people in political seats and power, they have been corrupted. There's a parasite that has latched on to not only the United States, but other countries, but primarily is using the United States for its muscle, such as it's done thus before in history many times. If you look back, what they're doing is using the American muscle as the host, and we're going to completely suck the nutrients out of this place until there's nothing left, and then they can reveal themselves and rise into more power and take place of what America once was. So there was the war, or there was the space race and the arms race. It's the AI race now, and whoever gets this main chair, I mean, obviously AI is going to go to whoever can have that type of infrastructure and support that type of technological advancement. But whoever is going to be the primary leader of example, such as in like the military industrial complex, that is who's going to be in power for the next, let's say, 20, 30, 50 years, or it depends. But whoever is going to get this chair is going to really have the majority of control over the world. So, like I said, everything that's taking place now is to perpetuate us towards 2030. And there's tons of information. We're going to deep dive into what all that's going to be. But that's what I want you to know, is that all this stuff, that is what we're really focusing on. And all the other stuff, it just plays in. Those are just tails to the beast. You know, this is the main beast that's really going to happen. Those are just like elements to the game that's either fluff pieces, or it's meant to distract us, or it's meant for us to get our hype and energy, because it's all part of that dance I was talking about. How we react to something, it allows them, okay, well, this didn't work, so now we'll try this. Just like right now, people don't really want to go fight a battle. But if we let a couple of these missiles pass by our defenses, hit some of not really critical infrastructure, but cause some significant damage, would the American people then want to go fight a war such as they did in 2001, which led into that whole decade of combat and was that the Patriot Act? So this is like another Patriot Act 2.0, because we're going to the data centers, the flock cameras, and how they monitor you and pretty much control your life. And I'm not going to get into that too much right now. But another thing is, remember the drones, all the drones? Donald Trump said, you know, we're going to get an answer. We'll get an answer for you. Well, I'll give you the answer, because they're not going to come back and give you the answer. Those drones, I still see them. And what they're doing, and have been doing, is they're on flight paths and flight plans. These are not commercial, you know, have fun. I have drones like that. And it's completely different. These things are on flight plans and flight paths, and are symmetrical in the way they're designed. And there's different ones, but what they're doing is they're mapping out, in essence, a Skynet, a grid, because when these data centers are completed and the AI models and the new programs and everything is completed, they're going to basically have a computer simulations, if you will, with like a HUD, kind of like you're playing the game Sims, except it's going to be real life, and they will be able to have the net over our societies and our lifestyles, not only with the flock cameras and the cameras that already exist, but having this shield, this grid over our lives, to where, you know, I click on your house and the HUD pulls up and it says, you know, mom, dad, whoever is living with you or who you are, have your information, your credit score, like your societal credit score, you know, maybe they can access whatever information that they decide is going to be on this software. But that is, in essence, what it's going to be, and that's what these drones are doing. They're mapping out this grid, and they've been doing this for over, I think, like 2 years now. They're mapping out our entire grid so that when this comes, this is going to be one of the major implementations to how they monitor your social credit scores at home, and you'll be able to see the collective score of the house itself, and then you'll be able to see the individual. And then you'll also be monitored, tracked, and traced everywhere you go. Vehicles, buildings, anything, and it's just going to go from there. We're going to cover that in another video. But this is the stuff that comes, the information, and then it goes. And there's so much information to take in that it's hard to keep track. But I try to keep track, and then I try to zoom out and see what does all this mean, and what does this all have to do with really anything or everything, and it's all a part of it. The same thing right now where they talk about, Donald Trump said that this is a biblical battle for American soldiers to go fight. This is biblical. This is what Jesus wanted. Because that's another narrative they could play with Project Bluebeam coming up, with Jesus or other religious figures, or like they said, aliens. Now they're starting to talk more about aliens. We got the movies coming out with Disclosure Day or whatever it's called, and all these movies. And you can even see it on Netflix and all these other things. Just look at what are the new movies, even if they're old movies. What are the ones that they're choosing to spill back out into the public? Red Dawn and all these things, because that's what is in the minds, that's what's trending, and that's the narrative they're trying to run with. It all works in conjunction with everything that's taking place. So just know that we're going to wrap this up. We're moving through point B to get to point C. Point C is Agenda 2030, and then there's plans after that. We're going to see more instability economically, more AI, more layoffs, food shortages, water shortages, potential conflicts on American streets as well, because not only information is being leaked from Iran that they want to destroy us and blah, 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 but that's also a good opportunity for our own government to utilize that as part of, more pieces for us to be involved with on this big game board. We have to zoom out and start looking at the stuff like generals. And how I know this is all going to happen is because the parasites that latched onto our politicians and the people who are making these moves, they criminalize themselves by getting involved with these acts. But they know that if this really comes to light, if we can tug on a thread and somebody allows us to start tugging threads, it's the Oogie Boogie Man from Nightmare Before Christmas that gets unraveled until he falls apart. We would never let this go. And they know that they're going to prison, they're going to Nuremberg too, they're going to jail. It's over. You're getting buried. You're getting buried if you're lucky to go to jail. It might probably be much worse, because I know a lot of people, a lot of Americans and people around the world are very, very fed up, and this is just absolutely disgusting. But these people know that they're going to go there, so they have to protect each other. Meanwhile, they're still being blackmailed by the ones that are really controlling them, and then there's people beyond them controlling them to do everything. And that's why we're making these crazy moves last minute, and they know that if they don't go along with it, they're toast, and it's too late to be righteous. The game is up, and they're going to do whatever they need to do to get to 2030, because once this is done, then they're liberated. They don't have to worry about us retaliating, because we won't have the choice to retaliate if we're even left. So that's pretty much all I want to say on this video, guys. If you like this, please subscribe, share. I'm telling you, I got some hitters coming. You're going to want to hear this stuff. So I'll catch you on the next one. Later.